Pastor. Thanks, everyone, for coming. Well, one of the things that I want to do tonight is to follow 1 Peter 3:15, that we should always be ready to give an answer to those who are asking us for evidence of our faith. And one of the things that I've learned in these last couple of years is that the creation actually confirms the creation account. The Big Bang, as we'll find out, is a big God. I have more that I had planned, but I had to cut some things. So tonight we're going to just address astronomy. I just want to give you answers so that when those people do come to you and they think they're more intellectual than you are, or that science would suggest what they believe, that you can say, well, now wait a minute, what about this? What about this other thing? What about these other 5 things? Seriously, I have about 15 things. So let's get started here. I'm going to start in the farthest that we've ever seen with the Hubble Space Telescope. It's going to be the Hubble Deep Field. Then we'll zoom in closer to home, to our own solar system, and then we will end up at home. And we'll talk about the Earth and the Moon and the relationship between them. Let's get started with the Hubble Deep Field. By the word of the Lord, the heavens were made, and by the breath of his mouth, all their hosts, it says in the Psalms. The thing about this picture is that, I don't know how you can see it. I wish the screen was about 3 times bigger. You could see everything. The thing about this picture is what they were expecting to see was they were, from their worldview, their Big Bang worldview, they were hoping to look back. Thank you. They were hoping to look back in time to the very beginnings of the Big Bang. What they were expecting to see was dust and gas just coalescing together and clumping together to form the first galaxies. But as you can see from this picture, God one-upped them, and all you can see is beautiful galaxies and stars. If the title wasn't there, you could see like 4 really beautiful galaxies. I don't know if NASA colored them that way, but they're like purple, green, orange, and yellow, I believe. We'll see later what those look like, and it's very cool. Something to look forward to. Well, if you're a believer, maybe you've looked out at the stars at night, and maybe it's jostled your faith just a little bit. I confess that has happened to me. And then this verse here just kind of exploded out at me one night. The last 2 words there, for him. And the first 2 words of that bottom sentence, paragraph, phrase, what have you. All things have been created through him and for him. It doesn't say all things have been created through him and for mankind, so that we can build spaceships and go out there and play Star Trek looking for Klingons. It says they were made by him and for him. Psalm 19:1, the heavens declare the glory of God. The skies proclaim the work of his hands. Every night up there, he's showing just how awesome he is. Let's talk about another thing. Evolutionists would like to believe that this is proof of the Big Bang. It's called the cosmic microwave background. And what this is an area of radiation when they point their telescopes at one part of the sky, and then when they point them at other places of the sky, they keep finding this radiation. And from what I understand, I don't know if this is true or not, it's something I read a long time ago, was that this radiation is actually kind of what causes that snowy thing in the old TV sets when the stations would stop sending their signal. You get that snow and hear that noise. From what that article said a long time ago, I don't know if it's true or not, that's what it said, it was picking up that radiation. Like I said, they like to associate this with the Big Bang. They call it the Big Bang smoking gun, trying to suggest there's a link there. But it would be like if I were standing next to a woman maybe 22 years older than I am, and you see the two of us together, and you go around telling everyone that that's my mom, and then it turns out it's not my mom. You assumed it was my mom, but it wasn't my mom. So this is the exact same kind of thing. Just because the cosmic microwave background exists doesn't prove the Big Bang Theory by linking them together. One of the things I read while I was researching everything on the Live Science website, which is a science news type of website, is that, I'm going to read it right from here because I don't want to mistake what they wrote. Nearly all galaxies are moving away from us, and this stretching of space is causing them to move faster the farther away from us that they get. This is called a redshift. Okay, so we look out and we see that just about everything is moving away from us. One of the things that I was thinking while I was putting this together, it seems like I remembered something about stretching, and where did I remember that? Oh, the Bible. How many times does God say, I stretched out the heavens? And another thing popped into my head. You know, the Bible was written several thousand years ago. Did they know about redshift back then? Or did God tell them, this is what I did? I think God told them. Once again, God went off them. We're just now getting to that knowledge with our science. Let's move on to another big problem. The Big Bang folks would like you to believe that the Big Bang, when it exploded or whatever it did, that it formed a whole lot of dust. And this dust went out into the universe, and after some time it decided to start sticking together and eventually became stars and galaxies. But the ideal gas law tells us that once gas does start coming together, it heats up. And when it heats up, it actually causes it to expand. So instead of coming together, the heat builds up, it actually pushes it apart again. So this is just another problem that we found, and you can write this down if you'd like. Tell all your Big Bang friends. Another thing with stars is these, I put it like this for a reason. I don't know if it's true, but I'll let you make the call on this one. According to the Big Bang Theory, the only gases that can be produced are hydrogen, helium, and a little bit of lithium. And that's the only thing that these first stars could have been made from. The problem is, no matter where we look in the galaxies and across the universe, the only thing we find are these population 1 and population 2 stars. The idea is, what they believe, is that these population 3 stars would have built up over time as they expended their gas. They would have built up some of the heavier elements. If you remember the periodic table, these heavier elements, they suggest, would have built up in the cores of these population 3 zero metal stars. And then when those went supernova, they suggest that those bits went to form on these population 1 and population 2 stars. Well, we can't find these population 3 stars. They're supposed to be, they would have been small in size, probably smaller than the sun. And because of what they were made of, apparently, they would have burned slower. They would have used up their fuel slower. We should find some even after supposed billions of years. We don't find any. So either they're already gone or they're fiction. And just another thing that they've invented trying to prop up their Big Bang theory. One interesting thing that I found out, they've actually discovered a star. They named it a great name, HD 40283. Yeah, well, that's right over there, yeah. They gave it a nickname, though, so that it's easy to remember. It's called the Methuselah star, because this star, according to their dating methods, is actually almost as old as the universe itself. So how do you get a star that's almost as old as the universe itself? But here's the kicker. It's not a population 3 star, it's a population 2 star. How can it be almost as old as the universe when the only materials around were the ones to build these population 3 stars? I think they've got a problem. Houston. Houston, we have a problem. Problem is probably the key word for tonight, because the Big Bang's so full of holes it could actually be used as a colander if it was real, or maybe a wiffle ball. When the Big Bang supposedly exploded, according to their experiments, it would have produced an equal amount of antimatter and matter. Well, regular matter is what we see all around us. You're sitting on matter. You're made of matter. Atoms, molecules, all those things. The thing about antimatter and matter is that when they come together, they actually annihilate each other and turn into energy. And they've done this at the CERN particle accelerator. I was reading about an article just earlier today. So let me just show you what it might be like if antimatter and matter came together. We like Coke and Pepsi, duking it out, taking the Pepsi challenge. They would just annihilate each other. So there's two problems here, actually. One, when the Big Bang supposedly happened, why didn't all the matter and antimatter just annihilate each other right away? That's the logical thing that would have happened. Second problem is that everywhere we look in the universe, we see matter. We don't see antimatter. In fact, as far as I can remember, there's only been a very small amount of antimatter detected in the whole universe. Where'd it go? If it's the other half, where'd it go? Why can't we find it? The next thing is the missing monopole problem. The Big Bang, when it supposedly went bang, it would have produced a whole lot of heat. And this heat went on for supposedly on something on the order of 200 or 300,000 years. And this heat would have produced these particle magnets. You know how you take a magnet and it has one side that's positive, the other side's negative. You can take another one, and they stick together. Well, these would have had only one pole. That's why they call them monopoles. But they can't find any. They ought to be able to at least find one. I couldn't even find one to put on this slide. The next problem with the Big Bang is the dark side of the force. Supposedly, 96% of the universe is made up of this stuff called dark matter or dark energy. Dark, what have you? Dark Vader. And only about the other 4% is things that's actually used. Make planets, stars, galaxies. Where is the other 96%? Why can't we find it? We should be able to find it. It makes up 96% of the universe. Be kind of like an elephant trying to hide behind a twig. I would think. Should be easy. Oh, there it is. Yep. Spotted the elephant behind the twig. So, to put all this together, the Big Bang expects us to believe that nothing was somehow able to produce this explosion or reaction. There had to be nothing, otherwise we would need another explanation as to where whatever it came from. Of course, it's not a problem for creation because the Bible tells us in the beginning God, and then he tells us what he did. But the Big Bang comes up with all this extra baggage that nothing explosion was influenced in a just so way so that the universe could be generally flat. I forgot to talk about that. It's called the flatness problem. It has to do with the density of the universe. You can look it up on Wikipedia. It's called the flatness problem. They have a picture on there of a universe that's sphere-shaped, one that's saddle-shaped, and one that's flat. The idea of that is that it's so impossible, it would be like, in their mind, in these long ages, these billions of years, if a pencil were standing on its tip, not falling over for billions of years. Of course, that's not possible, and this certainly doesn't explain anything. They believe that the universe could expand and not contract back on itself. They believe that the antimatter produced would not eliminate itself right away, or, should at least be able to find something, especially if it's half the universe. They believe that the universe could come to a uniform temperature. That's something else I missed. Back on the cosmic microwave background slide, the universe over here is about the same temperature as the universe over here. And even in the 14 billion years that they give it, it's not enough time for the light to have propagated from one side to the other for it to be able to distribute the heat evenly. And that's called the horizon problem. They expect us to believe that the heat that should have produced monopoles somehow didn't, even though it had 200,000 or 300,000 years to do it. Can't find them. They They want us to believe that there's dark energy and dark matter that supposedly makes up 96% of the universe, but we look for it, can't find it. 96% of the universe. They suggest that we can look out into the farthest reaches of the universe, the Hubble Deep Field, and see gas and dust, but all we see are more stars and more galaxies just like the ones around here. Supposedly 14 billion years, they say. Then there's the problem of the population 3 stars that we can't find, that don't seem to have ever existed. The Big Bang contradicts all observable evidence, yet it's the leading theory. If your kids go to publicly funded schools, they'll probably learn that in junior high and high school. Even though it has all these problems, they still hang on to it. So, if you're a Christian and you've accepted the Big Bang Theory, you have a problem. You have a problem not just because of the things I just talked about, but you have a problem because the book of Genesis says that God did everything in 6 days. He didn't do it in billions of years. He did it in 6 literal days. Why not trust him when he says something that's how it happened? If you trust him to save your soul. If you're not a Christian and you're here, how many problems with the Big Bang will it take before you reject it and realize that it's more intellectual to believe that someone created everything, not that nothing somehow exploded and created order out of disorder. This is for you Star Trek fans. Star Trek fans? Thank you. I didn't do it for nothing. Well, here we are in our solar system, Sector 001. A little hot over on this side of the screen, so I'm going to move over here where the habitable zone is. This is an artist's depiction of our solar system. They don't have Pluto on there. I'm still a little upset about that. But in an artist's rendering, the artist has free reign to kind of put things together however they want. You might see that if you go to the Smithsonian, they have the evolution exhibits where they have all the nice pictures. This is a picture just like that, actually, because the planets aren't actually that nicely arranged. They're not that close together. Also, one of the things I noticed on this image is that the planet Uranus doesn't seem to have any rings. It has rings just like Saturn, not as bright. They're actually kind of black in color, so maybe that's part of the problem. The nebular hypothesis model, my animation's not working. This is how the Big Bang folks want you to believe that solar systems came about. They have more swirling dust clouds. Then they suggest that enough of it clumped together at the middle and started swirling around and formed a sun. Happy little sun. The conservation of angular momentum tells us that if the star is spinning counterclockwise, as this one should be, that the things that are orbiting it should also be spinning the same direction. Venus rotates, and that's what my animation is supposed to be showing. Not sure what happened to it. Venus actually rotates in the opposite direction from the sun's spin. It orbits around the sun. It's okay, thank you. It orbits around the sun in the same direction. It orbits, excuse me, it orbits counterclockwise, except as it rotates clockwise. That shouldn't be happening. It's a frictionless environment out there. But it's not just Venus that's the problem child. Uranus orbits on its side. And actually, if I recall correctly, it actually points its north pole toward the sun and rolls around on its side. They say it's like a bowling ball, but I mean, I guess all the planets are round, so they would all be bowling balls. Some of the moons, the moon of Neptune, Triton, the moon of Saturn, Phoebe, and also these other moons whose names I can't pronounce. Moons of Jupiter, they orbit backwards. So if their planet's going counterclockwise, they're actually going around their planet the opposite direction. That's not angular, the conservation of angular momentum, that actually goes counter to the conservation of angular momentum. What would it take to cause something to go around the exact opposite way? They suggest that maybe they got knocked off course by a collision or something. Or maybe God did it that way. I think it's probably the actual answer. They've actually found another planet, an exoplanet, which is a planet in a different solar system. And this animation is not working either. I don't know why my animation's quit on me. WASP 17, another great name. I don't know who's giving these names up. It's twice the size of Jupiter, but it orbits its planet. It orbits its star backwards. What's it take to reverse the course of a planet? And all these collisions happening, and started, oh, okay, I'll just go the other way. Just all these things pile on together, you know? People still believe in the Big Bang Theory, though. The Oort cloud, or lack thereof. Astronomer Jan Oort proposed this idea of the Oort cloud. It's supposed to be a collection of cometary debris way out past Pluto. It's a humanist explanation, if you will, of how we get comets, why there are still comets around. Because when comets spin around the sun, they start losing material. That's why we see that tail. If you saw, I think it was Hale-Bopp back in like 99 or so. Beautiful comet. When they go around the sun, they lose material. Each time they go around, they lose even more. And then eventually, there's nothing. So this is a kind of a rescue device, if you will, to explain why we still have comets around after supposed billions of years. Problem? It isn't the Hubble telescope that took that first image we saw with galaxies billions of light years away? Isn't it powerful enough to see something right there? It's just another theory that's been taught as fact in in our schools and institutions. You know, I believed it myself until I, like, you know what, God? Okay. And then I started researching it. And there's no images. It's never been visualized, never been on radar or anything like that. There are some honest astronomers, though. This man who said this is not a Christian. In fact, I think he's passed away now. Hopefully he became a Christian before he passed away. Said many scientific papers are written each year about the Oort cloud, its properties, its origin, its evolution, yet there is not a shred of evidence, direct observable evidence for its existence. This man was famed astronomer Carl Sagan. If you've ever seen PBS Cosmos, that's the fellow. And he was a big name astronomer. At least there's someone being honest. Like, dude, this is a rescue device. Come on. You're pushing things on people that don't even exist. Another problem, the faint sun paradox. This is our own sun. And the same fellow, Carl Sagan, he and a colleague figured out that the sun, about 3.5, you know, these are Big Bang time scales. All right, I don't believe in this. I don't want you to believe in it. But he did. He supposed that 3.5 billion years ago, the sun, the output from the sun, was actually a lot less. So much that 3.5 billion years ago, when life was supposedly starting to evolve on Earth, the sun, the output from the sun, was actually so much less that the Earth would have been a frozen wasteland. It never could have happened. It was being taught. Let's see if this animation works. Oh, good. This is the Goldilocks zone. They call it the Goldilocks zone because it's just right. The Earth is not too far away, and it's not too close. The problem with that would be that if we were too close to the sun, all the water on Earth would turn to vapor, and it would escape the atmosphere. And of course, no water, no life. If it were too far away, yet again, frozen wasteland. Earth is in the Goldilocks zone, just the right zone from the sun so that we can have liquid water. But there's another thing. There's another kicker. We're actually in two Goldilocks zones. We're also in the galactic Goldilocks zone. We're in the right place for our sun in our solar system, and our solar system's in the right place in our galaxy. It's not too far away from the galactic center, because if it were farther out, we would be exposed to more radiation. If we were closer to the galactic center, we would also be exposed to more radiation. So we just won the jackpot. I mean, it's just stacking up on our side. Yeah, we're pretty blessed. I think God probably had a hand in it. The Earth and the Moon. The Earth is the only planet in our solar system that has a moon that is so large, size-wise and mass-wise. Actually, the moon, you probably know, as it goes around the Earth, it actually creates a little bulge on each side, and it helps helps cause the tides to go. You probably knew that. But did you know that the moon is moving away from Earth at a rate of 1.5 inches every single year? Eventually, it'll go bye-bye. That's an all right thing, because for us from creation, it's only moved it out about 800 feet. And I personally have a theory that it was probably in a pretty stable orbit until the flood happened, and all that water moving around probably had something to do with it moving out of a stable orbit. That's my own theory. I have to subscribe to it, but, and I'm no scientist. Let's bring it back closer. Ken Hogan has suggested that this is what happened to the tall dinosaurs. They got conked in the head. See, if we take that 1.5 inches a year and go backwards in time, and even follow the supposed billions of years time scale, only about 1.5 billion years ago, this would have happened. The moon would have been rolling around on the surface of the Earth. Earth is supposedly, according to them, 4.5 billion years old. That's a 3 billion year contradiction. And not only that, there's something called the Roche limit. The Roche limit tells us that when two masses of planet size would come together, the gravity from the larger one, at some point as they get closer, would actually tear the smaller one to bits. And so if that had happened, excellent, everybody can watch it again. If that had happened, and the moon had actually been that close and gotten to the Roche limit, what we would have, we wouldn't have a moon, we would have rings, just like Saturn and just like Uranus. But, we don't. And it would have been a lot less than that 1.5 billion years that it would have been for it to actually move back and roll around like a cue ball. I have a sign-up sheet in the back. If you want to sign up with your email and your name, I will email you the Evolution Cruncher book. It's actually a PDF. I can't email you an actual book. I haven't figured that one out yet. Maybe we'll need some of that Star Trek technology. But I will email you the Evolution Cruncher book. It's like 970 pages. So unless you get a really good deal on ink toner, you'll probably just want to read it off your computer, your iPad, or whatever. And I will send you links to these other two books, The Evolution of a Creationist and The Beginning of the World. That second one's written by Dr. Henry Morris. He also co-wrote The Genesis Flood, a pretty popular book. I would email you these, but I don't feel comfortable sending them to you. They're available free on that website, but they don't actually say you can distribute it like the Evolution Cruncher book does. So I will email you the Evolution Cruncher book, and I'll send you links to where you can get these other books, or you can go to evolutionofacreationist.com and download that one. That one's written by Dr. Joe Martin. he's a former evolutionist. You can also, for the Dr. Henry Morris book, you can visit CreationConversations.com and click on the Resources tab. And as of a couple days ago, it was still free. And that one's available in more than just PDF format. But I want to make these available to you because they're free, for one thing. And because I want to get materials in your hands that will help you prepare yourself for that time when your evolutionist chum from high school comes up and says, "Hey, how you doing?" You know, whatever. Your neighbor, somebody on the bus. I just want to put materials in your hands that will help you to be able to defend your faith from a scientific standpoint too, not just from the fact that God's Word is true. I'd like to end with a short video. Thank you.
Beyond what